GE Precision Launcher. Our goal with the project was to shoot a small projectile 30 feet through a target. We had to use a 5-pound weight to load the project, or to load the launcher, and it had to be at a zero energy state before the weight was dropped, so nothing was allowed to be under tension.
Alright, awesome.
Alright, go through the process of how it releases the springs and hits the ball.
Alright, so I explained to you how it's set up, and all that has happened is an operator drops the weight, and the weight pulls back the springs. This pushes the gate latch up, and it releases, hits the ball.
So what design challenges did your team face?
One problem was with the release mechanism. So we went with a gate latch, and our problem was getting the gate latch to release. So what we ended up doing was building a house, and we placed that house over our tube that guided our ball. And what would happen was that when we dropped the weight, the gate latch would back up and bump into the housing, and that would cause the gate latch to release.
Alright, awesome. Any other challenges you guys faced?
Yeah, we also had an issue figuring out how to keep the rope from just dragging along the back of the table as we dropped the weight. So we put a small pulley and an eye hook at the end of the table to guide the rope and reduce friction. And we also had a big problem figuring out what to use for springs or bungee cords. We started off with bungee cords, but the 5-pound weight wasn't able to pull them back far enough for it to be effective. And we ended up using some small springs. I think they're for screen door.
Alright, and would you say that the fixes were successful?
I would say so.
Yeah, I agree.
Alright, this is our precision launcher, and it's pretty much just the main launcher component built onto a table, and it's approximately 3 feet and 6 inches, just made out of 2x4s, and we built it, put some supportive struts here and then down there. So the main design is pretty simple. It's just we use a stress ball, 2 springs that get pulled back. Loading it is pretty simple, since another problem that we had, it had to be loaded for each shot within 30 seconds. So all that happens, the gate latch is pulled up and the paracord is threaded through.
So how did your project fare in competition?
Our project did okay. We got 6th place.
Alright, very impressive. So how did each of the shots go?
Well, we missed our first 2 shots, and I'm not sure why, because the day before our shots were pretty on point, and our 3rd shot hit the target, but it didn't go through it.
Alright, so what do you think might have gotten wrong on the first 2 shots?
We were having some issues with the, after we had painted the project, we had some issues with drag, and we'd also test fired it quite a bit, so the springs had lost a little bit of their elasticity.
Of course.
So
Okay.
that could have contributed to our misfire.
Alright. So what would you do differently to improve your project?
We probably would have used a different barrel material. We used a cardboard tube because we found that at the craft center, but it probably would have been more beneficial to spend the extra money and get a PVC pipe because it would have been smoother.
Alright.
And also, we might have used a different projectile, because it seemed like all the groups that used a stress ball or some circular object or spherical object did worse than the ones who used like Nerf darts or smaller projectiles.
They were a lot less accurate too.
Alright, my advice for future students would be to start much earlier and do a lot of testing, because anything that can go wrong will definitely go wrong on test day.
I would tell freshmen to probably use a different kind of propulsion method for their project. The projects that use compressed air as a propulsion seem to be much more accurate and went farther.
Another piece of advice I would give is that you might want to factor in angles and elevation, because we didn't take that into account until near the end. So what we ended up doing was just making 3 blocks or 3 wooden blocks and placing it in the front to angle it.
Advice I'd give to future students doing G's precision launcher would be to actually measure out 30 feet, because we just walked it out with our feet, and what we actually thought was 30 feet was probably more like 20 or 25, and that plays a big difference in competition.
Oh, dang it.
I would tell freshmen to use a different. What? Any. Start over.
Because you're going.
Advice I would give.
All right, great. Advice I would give. All right. Advice I'd give to future students would be.
I would tell freshmen. Hang on, start.